Welcome to Good Earners, reviewing The Sopranos. Here on Good Earners, we like to talk about family, finessing, finances, and feelings in the world of Tony Soprano, bringing you a new perspective, a fly perspective, and a black perspective. Before we get into reviewing this episode, I do want to preface this by, if there's any moments of humor, any moments of laughter, any moments of joke, it's not in light of any victims that have been sexually abused or abused in any kind of way, or raped, or however we need to label it these days. These are not jokes to make light of that. We are literally just talking about a television show that we truly love and we have fun with. So understand if there's laughter or funny coming on, understand it's just to make light of an episode that is really heavy. So please don't take it personal or take it the wrong way. We understand the weight of the issue in this episode, and it's a real thing for those victims. So I want to preface that before we get into it. Spike Lou, Rich, how y'all doing, bro?
What's going on, brother? How you feeling?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm feeling like we ain't getting passed over on this episode for the position. You know what I'm saying? It's Capo.
No doubt, man. Feeling good
I
too,
like
man.
that move they made over there, man.
Right, yeah. Looking forward to discussing this episode with y'all. This is a big episode.
Oh yeah,
heavy episode, as you said, Mo. So trigger warning to anybody. These type of events have an effect on you, but iconic Sopranos episode. So I'm looking forward to get into it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, this is one of those episodes that you remember the title from, like Game of Thrones, like the Hold the Door, Reigns of Castamere. Like when somebody say Employee of the Month, you know
immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point.
That is a great point. Yeah, that's what episode. Well, I guess you can go ahead and give us our synopsis since you tell us what episode we're reviewing today, Spike Lou.
Absolutely. The episode that we were reviewing today is episode 4 of season 3, titled Employee of the Month. In this episode, Janice luck is running thin about the leg that she took away. Dr. Melfi contemplates letting someone else Tony because she feels like she's not helping him. Ralphie gets passed over for a key position, and Johnny Sack is way too close for Tony's comfort. This is episode 4 of season 3, entitled Employee of the Month.
Yes, sir. And we get right to it. Irina calls the house. Did Irina call last season? Was that I feel like she's called. Okay, because when we get to a later scene in a later season 5, it was like, is this the first time? Or I don't know. It just it's just weird. Like
this last time.
That was the right. That was the last time. Boy.
It was.
Yeah, good call. Oh man. But Irina, she calls the house, and I guess it's been a week since Svetlana's leg has went missing. She tells Tony that she misses him, and she's violating here. Anything else y'all want to add to this scene, dude? Like, what time of day is this? This morning? Like,
it don't matter. Any time of day is wrong for her to be calling. You know what I mean? It's very interesting that Carmela asked Tony to answer the phone. Had she not done that, she would have answered the phone, and it would have been a whole big blow up about everything else that happened. I said it last week, and there's going to be another scene in this episode where I bring it up. We're so reminiscent, man. All of this is happening because of Janice. Like, Janice is just a thorn in Tony's side. When we get to a scene later in the episode, I want to specifically mention something that I, like I said, discussed last week. But the funny thing is that Tony's not even messing with her anymore. So even if Carmela did answer the phone, he legitimately is not having an affair with her anymore. He cut things off, but it's still the audacity you once were. Yeah. You know what I mean? And she's still calling the crib. The calling the crib is disrespectful.
Oh man.
So yeah, man, that you just see what's going on, and here we go, Janice, you causing trouble in my life with your bullshit over some petty shit too. It ain't even real.
It ain't even
over some fucking records.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah. If I was Tony, I'd have just bit the bullet and paid her. Here's what the records is worth.
Yeah.
But I think Janice is a principled person.
Or what got him back? I was going to say, well, at least
she'll take the money and still get the records back and flip them again.
Just give Svetlana the money. He should have gave her that instead of saying you could stay at my mom's. How about I'll give you the money for the records and you going with the husband with the kids? Like, just give Svetlana the money for the records. Give it to Janice. Let her think that you recovered them on your own. You know what I mean? Like,
and this is rare, but I like Janice as a character, but I really don't blame her here though. Like, I understand my mom gave these to you, but like, if it means something to me, and I'm like, I like to have those back. At least make me an offer and be like, well, I'll give it to you for this. Don't just flat out stonewall me and be like, no, she gave them to me. Like, bitch, that's my mama.
Yeah.
So I
She wasn't in
kind
her
of
right
get where
mind.
Janice coming from. Right. Right.
But yeah, Svetlana calling is crazy. I think honestly, deep down, Tony likes this. He likes this. Like he's Tony comes off as one of them dudes. We all know dudes like this that like the messy situation. Yeah, they like that messiness. Like they want to pretend like, yo, chill out, calm down, cool out, man. I got my whole situation over here. You doing too much, but really be liking it though. Like Tony's to me is like one of
what make him based off what you know of Tony and the character, what you think it makes him feel alive or something like.
Yeah, it's a part of it. It's the thrill.
Powerful.
He likes that thrill. That's we see in season 6 when the thrill is kind of dying off. Him and Christopher are yearning for like whatever they could do to get that high of being in the mafia, and it's not really there at that point. So these things are part of it. It's messy and it's a lot, but Tony, it keeps him going. Honestly, I think so. But he got to put up the front because that's what he does. We get to see Richard and Jennifer Melfi, that is. I guess they got back together. They're having some conversation about her patient. And again, like we talked about, I think that was season 1. We were talking about, season 1 about Richard. As much as we don't like him, got the douchebag face or whatever, he's right. Again, like he's right on the money. We're talking about psychopathic behavior and anything, man. Rich, what did you think about, matter of fact, let me throw in your court, Spike. What did you think about this conversation, even them two getting back together after Melfi was dating Randall at that point before the whole police brutality situation in season
1? You led with it. I still think this dude is a dipshit, a know-it-all.
Yeah.
I don't think that I'm surprised. Even she threw the jab in there. I took you back. Like, this just don't seem like the type of guy that Dr. Melfi will be dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
He comes off as really pretentious, like just an asshole. And even him trying to, I know you said he was right, Mo, but just him trying to dictate who she sees as a profession, it's almost discrediting how good she is. Like, he's telling her, like, you can't help this dude. Like, nigga, you don't know my bag. You don't know how I'll be getting down in here. So I just don't like this dude. It didn't come off good at all to me. I don't fuck with him.
Is he right though?
Yeah, you're right. He is right. He is right.
You hate him, boy. I don't like you, but you're right. Like,
but you're right. That's the worst right there.
Oh man, it's like, I don't want to tell you.
Fuck with you and you spitting facts,
man. Come on.
Richard, man, he represents a portion. We've said this before. The show likes to take elements and have a larger message to the audience. And one of those audiences is the people that they hate the image that Italian Americans get because of the mafia, and because of organized crime. And Richard represents that. We've known that about his character when we met him in season 1, and he's doubling down on it now. At this point in season 3 of Sopranos, in real time, there were people who were, against the show, against the violence, against everything that it was, I guess, promoting for Italian Americans, because they get looked at, they get judged, just as Richard said in this episode, because of that. So I think the show is kind of doing an idea, playing around with that. He'll never understand or accept the idea of the mafia and why it's so entertaining. It's no different than a portion of Black people, protesting Menace to Society in New Jack City, and films that showed us in a violent manner, in a violent state, when we can do more than that. So I thought the episode did a real creative job of doing that. And Dr. Melfi also said something else. She said, she says they're an advertisement for the American experiment. Excuse me. So I think that was purposely, because of that line itself. I think it was purposely tied into the show to let them know, when you think about the grand scheme of all you think of is the violence, and I can go that route, but I don't. At the end of the episode, it just kind of has a nice play on it. So very small scene, but has a large impact as far as what the tone is trying to say and what the episode is trying to deliver.
Absolutely. And it's great. David Chase and all those that are involved. This show, we already know, is so legendary for so many reasons, but one of the reasons is versus we see shows like, not to give a straight bullet, but like a show like a Power, they have scenes where they're just saying what they're going to do, even if nobody's around, versus using a character to bounce off what's trying to be said here. They bring Richard. Obviously, there was some kind of conversation or concept of say, hey, we should bring Richard back and they got back together, which is part of how marriages happen, but also because of what he represents, like you were saying, Rich, like he becomes that conversational piece that is needed where he's not on the other side of the law either. So he's literally your average everyday Italian American, just like us average everyday black dudes. Like, so we may be able to hoop, or we may not be able to hoop, but we can do things that ain't necessarily just one side of our experience. And so yeah, you hit it on the nose, bro. Absolutely. Melfi and Tony, they have their session. Looks like Melfi got a new fit. Tony feeling it, and Melfi says that he should bring his wife in at this point. Is that a good idea? I mean, we know how it goes, but at this point, did that make sense? Because she's focusing really on this last step of therapy after making breakthrough last week of behavioral therapy.
Well, you got to remember, Richard's in her head right now. Mm-hmm. He just got finished telling her he's using you, and right into his point, she mentions the log, and Tony doesn't have what log? Like he's confused. He doesn't even remember it.
Yeah.
So Dr. Melfi said, "Here you are demanding me to take it seriously, and you not taking it seriously." So maybe Richard is right. Maybe I am being calm. Maybe I am being used. He's talking about his mom not having a panic attack since his mom died. Obviously, she says that there are still things at the root that are buried. And Richard said in the last scene that he suffers from alexithymia. And she asked him directly, "Are you happy?" He doesn't answer, proving his point. Alexithymia is the inability to identify and describe your emotions. So everything that Richard just said to her in this last scene, Tony is proving. And now Dr. Melfi, for one of the first times, is questioning herself. And you know what? I really should cut this off. And I think she brought up Carmela just to see if he's open to it, which obviously he wasn't. And like I said, she checked him. You wanted more of me, but now you're the one not trying. I got shit in my life that needs attention now. That's what Tony says. Like I said, I think it was just a bounce back of what Richard was saying, and her needing to realize, okay, shit, maybe I do need to lean into this behavior thing. And I think she was very serious about it had the episodes of the event of the episode hadn't taken place.
Yeah, all of those were great points, Rich. I agree with you. This is her with him in her head and her testing the boundaries of like, is he really using me? Like she's trying to figure out for herself now. Is this what's going on? I love the breadcrumbs that are being dropped, but even as viewers, we're not totally sure if this is helping Tony or if he's manipulating her. So I love that we get to see it in real time and try to figure out for ourselves. Because like some episodes, it does seem like it's helping him, as we would assume Dr. Melfi would think. And then sometimes it does feel like he's using her. So I love that we don't know either as the fan. I love that there's no, like Mo was just saying, there was no side conversation saying, oh, I'm just doing this to do whatever. I love that we don't know either.
Yeah, I agree too. And I like, she asks him, are you happy? And, he didn't really even answer it. And I think, again, like this thing that Tony has, this is why I relate to the show so much, because I go through certain elements that I can connect with where it's like, happiness, what? Huh? What do you mean? Like, I mean, maybe for a few minutes or maybe for a moment. I mean, but look at the world on fire. Like, whatever it is that like we get AJ later in the series where he's like, are you kidding me? But he did make a good point at that point. But like, so it's like Tony with this mafia lifestyle, it's like we talk about the idea, but like in his mind, he's smart enough to know what it should look like or feel like, but he's not able to tap into those things. So it's like, I see what happiness, I see the happy wanderer. I want to be that. I know what it looks like, but I don't know how to tap into it because maybe, like you said, that condition that he may have, like his mom, like, so it's always an interesting thing to me that Tony doesn't really know how to be content. That's why he has to live in this thrill. If he doesn't live in this thrill, it seems like he has to stop and recognize, I am depressed. I am down bad all the time. So he needs his thrill to keep this adrenaline going that he doesn't necessarily have to deal with his feelings. Melfi helps, but a lot of times I think she helps him, at least at this moment, kind of how to facilitate balance within the thrills, having a family. So, it's a huge thing, but I did like the little shot that he says that like AJ and his laziness, it comes from Tony. So that's a good reveal that we know, okay, Tony was pretty lazy, when he was a kid or whatnot. So at least we know that trait is definitely from Tony. So laziness is there. Anything else y'all want to add to this therapy scene? Or I know it's a lot there, but Okay. Uh, Melfi goes and has a conversation with Elliot, and she reveals her patient is Tony, and he thought it was Augie April. I don't know. This is how much he. I don't. He said Augie April. Like I don't even know.
Augie April.
This dude, I don't even know if he even follows the news. Like I don't. But Melfi acknowledges that she was dealing with a sociopath and that Richard was actually a good man. He's 10 years older than her from another generation. So she's like saying to him, I'm mad because he's being who I always expected him to be. He was 10 years older than me. He always had different views of the world. He's being pretty much the clean cut Italian that I'm really looking for, so to speak. But why am I not satisfied? Why am I giving him such a grief? But we'll figure out later in the episode kind of where some of the issue lies in that, because we Spike talked about in our season 1 of where's Melfi's village or pool of people that are in the same respect as her. But what did y'all get from this therapy session with Elliot?
First, it showed me how under distress that Melfi was. Melfi's been sharpened on top of it, not only to Elliot, but to everybody. And you got to think how intimate a therapy room is, or a therapy session. There could have been plenty of times where she poured her heart out and accidentally let it slip that it was Tony Sopranos, because you get that intimate, you get that deep. But she's wise enough and has enough wherewithal to not do that. So the fact that she did drop it lets me know she's under a lot of stress. It reminded me of season 1, episode 3 of The Wire. First time we meet Omar, they do a stick up, right? Omar trying to really find out what the stuff is. His homeboy trying to get out. Omar, let's go. He drops Omar's name, which is a big no-no. Omar gave him that look ASAP. Dude dropped his name because he was under distress. He was worried. I don't know who upstairs. I don't know what's going on. We got to get up out of here. Omar wasn't worried. But because he was so stressed at that moment, there he is dropping shit. And it always, like, as soon as I think about that scene, I tie those two together, because that gives me the mindset of where they are. And she said it. I know Richard's right. I don't know what's going on. I need to figure this out for myself. And Elliot told her a good thing. Like, psychotherapy is limited. Like, come on now. Like, wrap this shit up.
Wrap this up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that he did a good job. Elliot did a good job of telling her the same thing that Rich was saying in a different way. Like, this is someone, it seems that she, not has a thing for older men, but she gets a lot of her motivation or how she should handle stuff from older gentlemen in her life, and her therapist being one of them. And I feel like that he understood what she was trying to explain, her fiance or her husband or whatever was trying to tell her. He didn't want to double down. He just wanted to give her a different approach, but get to the same conclusion. Like, yeah, you are in danger. And then especially when he got the name, like you said, and seeing how distressed she was. I'm sure he's been treating her for a while. She's never dropped a patient's name before or anything like that. He had a genuine look of surprise, which made him more worried, because he know how much of a professional that Dr. Melfi is. So yeah, I absolutely think that he sees the distress that she's in, and like she's kind of spiraling. That's the where to go.
It's really nuts to me when she got on him season 1 when they were trying to file the divorce, and like how she said you always had a thing for those young Irish girls. That's crazy to me, the fact that you have a wife that's 10 years younger than you, bro, and you still like, I just thought about that 10-year difference. Like, bro, you have a young thing, a full young thing. Like, you were out of middle school and high school before she even, you know what I mean? Like, bro, are you kidding me? That's crazy to me. Like, that thought of just like 10 years of an age gap is nuts to me. Like, and you still like looking over the fence, whatever. But anyways, sorry, that's me. But Janice is in the basement of Livia's house that's now going to be her house. Looks like Janice has upped the equipment from the classic cup on the wall technique to this metal detector joint. And Tony comes over and he warns her about the Russian. And Janice, she's saying, hey, look, I'm just trying to do a documentary on World War II, and I need that music.
Man, she hit Tony with some shit this episode, bro. Like, from here to when she was in the hospital talking about the guy shit, but she was hitting them. All the bullshit was out the bag. Like, she was hitting niggas with everything. This is a funny thing. I like this, as far as one of you guys said earlier, is it shows how much of a fucking thorn in Janet's side, in Tony's side and Janice is, and it's all about bullshit. It ain't even standing on business most of the time. It's like, man, I could be doing something that's way more valuable for my time, but instead I got to walk up and clean behind my big sister, man. It's hilarious to me. And she is like completely oblivious, it seems.
Yeah, she's not aware, and that's what makes it even more funny. And we don't get to see Tony in those pleading moments. Like, he's really pleading, like, come on, like, give her back the leg. You got the Russians involved in this. You swimming in uncharted territories over some records. Like, come on now. Like, you got to get this up. Yeah, like you said, the documentary thing, Janice, like, and she made this. I love how Tony looked at her at the end, like, oh, Janice. Like, the fact, like, so as you get the records, you're gonna sell them. Like, what are you talking about?
Right. It's just crazy, like, and it's like one of those. It's just a crazy family dynamic because it's like Tony could have left her in Seattle or wherever she was and not come to the funeral. I mean, if she eventually would have finessed and found her way back there because she knew her mom was gone, the house is available, whatever. So it's like she just one of them family members where it's like, dang, like, soon as you come around, bro, I know you bring my mood down. I already know you're gonna need something. You know, you're going to do you're not going to say you need it, but you're going to do every gesture that's implying that I need to help, make me feel bad, pounce on my emotion. She's like that type of family member. I've been around it. I'm just like, so-and-so coming to town. And it's like, you're happy to see him. And that after that moment, it immediately goes downhill because you know what it's about to be. And Janice is that family member, bro. Like, oh my God, she is such a great.
Could you imagine Sopranos without Janice? I didn't mention it last week when I was just talking about the changes with Olivia's death. But one of them was when Janice went on that bus to Seattle. Janice was supposed to be gone. Like, Janice's character was pretty much a wrap. So a big part of her coming back was to kind of play that Livia role to Tony and be that thorn in the side. And I just think about all the moments that we get moving forward, and I'm like, man, I couldn't even imagine if we didn't have a Janice like, on the record. She would have been like a Barb character, somebody that pops up here and there.
Yeah.
Such great non-verbal acting by James Gandolfini in this scene.
Absolutely. I love,
she
man,
said,
that's one
the
of my
records are
types.
yours too. The records are yours too. They're a mirror into my soul.
Bro.
My man was so frustrated. He couldn't do shit.
It's like, bro.
Because he don't need this. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, bro. He's like, man, it's crazy.
It's right, Richie. Like, man, what are we talking about right now? A documentary and like what?
I came over to tell you to get the leg back. You got a woman's leg.
The leg
like,
back.
On, you sick.
Man, sick shit, man. And then he told her to get a job. Like that it was just great. This is a great scene.
It's like, bro, do you know how much money I have? Do you
really like I'm gonna be down in the basement searching?
Like
she has no idea like how much money he has. Like she probably whatever she think he has, he got more than that.
And I'm sure he's glad he keeps it that way because she'd be milking him for a whole lot more if she knew what he had.
Yeah, I mean, we see later in the series where he wants to find out some pertinent information about one of his guys, and she charges him $3,000. I answer the question for $3,000. And he pays it. So it's like, but that's later down the road. But I did want to just tie in something before we move to the next scene. I was thinking about what you were saying, Rick, that we were conversating about kind of the eras of the series. Like we looked at kind of season 1 and 2 kind of tied together. I was looking at it even more. I kind of look at 3, 4, and 5 as another era. And I kind of put 6, it was originally 6A, 6B, or some people call it 6 and 7, or long 6, however you want to call it. But I look at 3, 4, and 5 as another era, and then that season 6, I feel like it's like a whole nother era where it's like, okay, now we on the full throttle. So I kind of look at them like, so I think that's why I love The Sopranos the most at the 3, 4, 5 season era. You know, that's kind of like the meat and potatoes of the series.
Yeah, that's the three-peat.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Yeah, that's a three-peat. I agree. I actually see that. I see what you mean when you say that. They are kind of different because that beginning of season 6, man, it's kind of like the beginning of the end. So they all have different tones, even though we have same characters. All this, it's all different tones between them and the story that they're trying to tell. So that's a great pool. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and not only is it a different tone, but it's also a different tone. I like that. All right.
This guy.
All right, I know that was real cheesy. Ralphie and Jackie Jr. They have Vesuvios, and Jackie Jr. Boy, he got the eyes locked on Adriana. Boy, like he looking at her crazy, like, yo, what's good for real? They're having a conversation. Ralphie's like, look, I know I'm the one dating your mom. And then he's like, date my mom. And he's like, don't get filthy about it.
Don't get fucking filthy about it. It's one of my favorite lines in The Sopranos.
Oh my gosh. Because he's like, bro, you're not dating her. I know what you're doing. Like, that's
he said date.
Date. Like, bro, don't play me. Like, I know what you're doing, dog. Like, I'm out here. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I really like Jackie in this episode, but what did y'all get from this interaction between them? I mean, Ralphie's he's really trying here. And I think Ralphie does have a thing for kids. Like I spoke last episode, he has a thing for kids.
What are you talking about?
Not like that. I mean, like a soft spot, like Marty Martin love the kids, like that type of like y'all. I get the episode is a sensitive episode.
You gotta clarify that.
Has a thing for kids. My bad. Let me clarify for those. I think he has a special place in his heart for soft spot for youth or younger kids to like try to be some kind of positive force in the best way he can as a mob guy. Based on like, yeah, I do. I think so.
That's what you picked up from this?
I do. I mean, I think about he was 6 years old and he pretty much raised his siblings. I look at kind of how his reaction was to his son later down in the series. I look at kind of him trying to do something, even though I know there's a debate on setup or no setup. But I think that there is something about that. I think he has a problem with his peers because he don't like authority because his dad died when he was young. But I think when it comes to younger stuff, I think there is some kind of something there. Not perfect, but I think he does care about like that in some regard.
I think this is a play.
Okay.
I think that, and again, we have the knowledge of seeing how Ralphie's character plays out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that dating his mom, taking the son under the wing, nuzzling up with Johnny Sack, his thought process is, I can make the April crew what it was before Jackie died, and I can be the man. Mm-hmm. If I got his son in tow, then ain't nobody gonna be able to deny me, especially since New York fucking with me because I'm cool with Johnny Sack.
Mm.
I feel like this is like you were saying, this is the difference between Richie and Ralphie.
Mm-hmm.
Ralphie was a lot more thought out in most instances when it came to this gangster shit. At least he didn't act sporadically.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that this was a part of a plan that he was putting together because he wanted Tony ousted. He was trying, I want to be the big dog, and I know the games or the positions or the things that I got to put in place to be the big dog. And I think that this was a part of. He just manipulating Jackie, trying to make Jackie cool with him. So when I do get ready to make this play, I got the heir apparent, as Chris said later in the episode, I got the heir apparent son right here by my side. Like New York gonna back me. I can take Tony out with this hand.
Mm.
That's the last part Spike said is what really emphasizes my portion of it, which is it is a play. Mo, to your point, I think Kim losing his dad at 6 kind of turned him to the hustler that we see.
Okay.
You know what I mean? He learned how to kind of go about things a different way to get what he needs in the absence of his father for his family, siblings, and things like that. And I don't think you turn that off when you it's inherited that young. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we know that Ralphie's a great earner.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Not even a good earner, a great earner, top notch.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He knows he can sell it. Unlike Richie, he knows how to maneuver these rooms. Spike just mentioned all the people he's connected with. Not just in a group setting. I have individual relationships with these people as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I know I'm not the type that's going to go to a junior soprano. What's that going to do for me? Where that's going to get me?
Mm.
I'm going to make the right connections. You know what I mean? So he's hustling.
Bridge. Right.
And I think, like I said, going to Spike's last point, that's why he brings Jackie with him. This is the heir apparent. This is the dude. Let me get him involved in this life right now. I don't even know if he does. I don't know if he knows or go ahead, Spike.
I was just gonna say, especially since he know that Chris already got something up with him. Like, I think that's what drives him. Like, nah, I ain't letting Chris put his fangs in you and you go over there and you be with them. I'm finna give you a taste. You finna get some money right here with me. I want to solidify this.
Yep, that's a great point. Yep. Tony already got Chris. You ain't about to get Chris and Jackie.
Right. Right.
I know how close you and Jackie were. It seems only right. That's Uncle Tony. Nah. Like, let me show you how this goes.
Right.
Worst case scenario, I'll build some loyalty with you. So if I do need to do something, like I said, once again, making those relationships. So if I do need to make a move in the future, it may be a little bit more feasible. But yeah.
Yeah, I think two things are true there. I think it's probably more of what y'all saying. I still think there's like a small portion of them that's there, just kind of like Tony is with certain elements where every here and there Tony is like, okay, I'm kind of trying to do the right thing to something in my own way. But I think I agree with y'all. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's like I need my young boy. You know what I'm saying? And who better than, you know, Jackie Jr. at this point, you know, especially after y'all say it got the info. So I definitely can see that. And we even go a little further. Yeah. And it's like, well, I'm already banging his mom. So why not? You know what I mean? I'm doing two first.
Don't get filthy here.
I do got a random question. I do got a random question.
Yeah.
Why is it that no matter the show, no matter the movie, anytime somebody owes money or somebody goes for a collection and they short, they always try to explain it and think shit gonna be sweet. Every time. Yeah. My man said he had no kind of gumption about him, no kind of like, you know, moxie about him as far as like, oh yeah, I ain't got your bread. Like he's sitting there playing with his plane. Mm-hmm. Like nobody ever is alert enough to be like, you know what, this ain't gonna end well. Let me say something a little bit more relevant than I told my brother said he talked to you and it was good.
Mm-hmm. And he was a straight dick about it.
Yeah. Well, really what's going on here is Ralphie's putting on.
Oh yeah,
of course.
It was already settled. It was already good. Like, but Ralphie's putting on now. He's trying to do his best, you know, Richie impression. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, he's trying to show some moxie. He's trying to get Jackie Jr. on board.
I'm a gangster too. I ain't just fucking your moms. I'm a gangster too. Like you can get money over here. Like you go down right here too.
And I think that he leans into the language that Jackie will be able to be receptive of from him. Yeah. I tried to do the sit down and talk with you, but that doesn't work with him. Now I did with Tony when he had that sit down, how he changed his mind from coming in aggressive to like speaking about his college issues and things like that. But Tony's different. Tony, he can sell it without being physical. But Ralphie, he just don't believe you. You need more people. So I need to see you in this element. So he comes in with this tough guy, you know, trying to make a Western movie right now in this moment.
I'll be your Huckleberry.
There is some like really.
Shout out to Tombstone, man.
Absolutely.
Hey, man.
That's my shit.
Hey. So what did y'all think of this scene before we move on? Because there's a couple of things I just was like, yo, what's up with this language, bro?
You know what's up like with it. I didn't even.
That is so funny to me. Like, you know what's up.
Yeah, you know what's up with it.
You know what's up? That is so funny when you be saying that, dude. Like, nah, you know. You know, nah.
Yeah, man, come on.
This man, he said all these sexual innuendos. I'm like, Ralphie is some kind of shish kebab. And this young buck will make your wife moan. Like,
I love Jackie Jr.'s face when he said that shish kebab line. Just kind of like, this motherfucker, wow.
Yeah, he wild. Like, yeah.
Jackie had that look like, damn.
It's got a little Eastern flavor to it. This man's disses is crazy. But like, it was like
straight racist.
It was definitely straight racist. And, you know, even then when you see the dude, he starts swinging the bat or whatever he's swinging, like, this is, again, y'all, like, I'm not going to overemphasize this, belabor this point. Like we talked about, you know, Ralphie serves the role of what Richie did, but they're not the same. Man, if this was Richie, he would have whooped the brakes off this dude. Do you hear me? Richie would have went crazy on this guy. Like, you see Ralphie, he kind of ducking and dodging, then he gets him like in a little bear hug, and then he kind of let Jackie do the work. It's intentional, but I definitely don't think Ralphie got hands, bro. I just don't. Like, he ain't got hands, and that's okay. He's like, I'm a hustler. He's like, that's what it is. So it's just these two they're so different. Like, and this scene is what shows the difference. But I did like Jackie Jr. here. You know, he might not be necessarily like the most gangster, but I mean, he probably dude that works out a little bit, got a little, you know, do a little sparring with his partners or whatever. So I like to see Jackie in this element. We had hopes for him at one point.
Yeah, man. That dude played in Crash too.
He sure did.
Yeah, he looked familiar. Whack movie.
Yeah, shit trash.
Yeah, he takes that money out of his wallet and then he breaks Jackie off with a little something, and that seems to work later on.
South Beach trip.
Oh yeah,
South Beach trip.
Yeah, a little, we go and we see by far the most beautiful home on The Sopranos in the whole series. We see Johnny Sacks. I mean, they pan the camera all the way out. This should have been on House Hunters, dude. Like, this house is ridiculous. But Tony visits Johnny Sack, and this is where we find out that Johnny Sack had moved to Jersey. Even though he's still with the New York crew, he moved to Jersey. And basically, this is kind of new information to him and whatever. But, Johnny just downplaying it, but Tony is not letting it ride. What is the issue Tony is having here? Can y'all enlighten me, or maybe somebody that's a listener of ours that's watching and didn't quite get what was the issue for Tony?
Hold on, whoa. You don't get the issue?
What, he's stepping on stepping on him being a boss?
You in my territory. It's what this shit is all about. Like, we have territories. I know, I don't care if it's your home base or not. If you set up over here, I know you dip it in my pot. I know, pause. I know some kind of way or another, like I'm out of business or losing some sort of business with you in this vicinity. Like, you live over here, and how your girl was even acting when he was at the door. Like, she was like, who is it? Like, almost didn't want to let him in. And as Tony mentioned, bro, I just seen you. You didn't tell me you was moving over here, bro. Like, I had to learn from somebody else. So that makes me even more aware that something nefarious is going on. Like, yeah, this is a big deal.
Mo, before I became the third member of this pod of ours, imagine you telling me, I'm telling y'all, yeah, I love Good Earners. And then next thing you know, I got a podcast talking about Sopranos from the Black perspective. You feel me?
Cool. I do mine on Tuesdays, though, bro.
Yeah, I do mine on Tuesdays instead of Mondays.
Great point.
You know what I mean? Like, you're going to be like, yo, like, this is our block. Like, we got this mapped out. Like, nobody else is doing this.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, why are you here?
Home, boy. You sold it right there. Oh,
you feel me? Like, that's like, this is, and we've been talking this whole time. Like, you give me feedback on the show and how much you love it and blah, blah, blah. You ain't said one time that you had planned on doing something similar?
Right.
I just seen it pop up on the feed.
Like, that's crazy.
Wow. We got a better relationship than that. And why are you here? Like I said, New York, everybody knows New York is one of them cities. Like, you don't have to leave.
Yeah.
Everything you need is in New York. So why do you even need to come to Jersey? Y'all think lesser of Jersey. And then, obviously, and I will say this, the schools in New Jersey are probably the best in the country. Like, they're top notch. So when he said the schools and all that, that's like a real big thing in New Jersey. They don't play around with education.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Too, he's gonna get, like, there is a point of it that he's gonna have more space and more room, more bang for his buck. And none of that is incorrect, because people probably listen to this like, well, a lot of people that work in New York live in Jersey. That is true. However, the biggest part of it is he didn't even let Tony know, I'm gonna be setting up in your backyard. That's the biggest part of it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And he played. Johnny Sack he's smooth, bro. Because he playing it like, hey, man, slipped my mind. Or this isn't Carmine's favorite subject, so I ain't want to bring it up in front of Carmine.
Yeah.
He has an answer for everything Tony says.
Johnny Sacks the can of oil, boy.
And he doesn't linger on it. Like, as soon as he says his point, we moving on to the next subject. Maybe you can come on, you help me out with this. So yeah. And
I got a couple of
at the beginning of the scene, we see Tony banging on the door like the police. Tony hot.
Oh, he hot, trying to play cool to the bug, like, because he's doing that thing he did with Patsy. Don't say you're sure if you're not sure, like that kind of laugh off anger that he does. James Gandolfini, rest in peace, but he's so wonderful at that. Like, because I was watching Super Random, the Jamie Foxx show, and like there's this moment that the Silas touches him. And he's just like, man, you know what I'm saying? I drive the Porsche outside. He kind of laughs off like, don't touch me, man. Like, I said, when people do that laugh off, those are the craziest people, bro. If people do that laugh off and say something in the laugh, back up, bro. Them the crazy. So when Tony does that right here, it's like, but you didn't say anything. You could have, like, yeah. I was like, oh, man, he was hot. Man, I would have, yeah.
Were y'all surprised that Johnny's, like, this is the first time we seen Jenny, right?
Yeah, that's our first Jenny.
First time Jenny, yeah.
Were y'all surprised that was his wife? Because this is a big storyline.
A big storyline.
Big storyline.
In this episode.
Yeah, too. First time. It's hard after you know everything that happens. that you don't even look at it like that anymore. But first time you was probably like, hold on, because especially you see Tony and Carmella and just kind of there's always an image.
Old smooth dude. It seemed like he would have a. I wondered if something happened, like she got big just randomly or something like that.
He tells her later on, like, did I ever ask you to, did I ever complain about your weight?
Johnny Sack though, I respect him because he wasn't out here getting it in like Tony or nothing. He even though his wife looked like that, he was like loyal, holding it down. That's what.
Let me be favorite characters. Let me be clear to the listeners. Let me be clear to the listeners, especially if there's women listeners out there. We're not saying that you have to look a certain way to be defined as beautiful, but in the mob, you see a trend of them having a certain type of woman. I just want to be clear that we're not saying that.
Yeah, exactly. It's more Adriana's and Carmella's than it is Jenny Sacks.
Yeah, in this world, and that's why I speak about Ralphie the way I do. As far as y'all with the play, I think what I like to kind of focus in on is the little good traits that may not necessarily work in their favor in the mob, like Johnny Sack being married to Jenny and not having Gumars. Him and Bobby Bacala have that in common. It's like I look at that's a little character trait that's like kind of a good thing. It doesn't necessarily change things in position of them in the mob, but so that's why I say I think every character has something good about them. You just gotta really find it. Nobody is all bad. You could be a lot of bad, but nobody's all bad, and nobody's all good either. So I look at Ralphie. What? Well, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that reminds me of Ari Gold in Entourage. Like he doesn't cheat. He famously doesn't cheat, but he does everything else that you could possibly do.
Oh boy,
you know what I mean? But he got that one feature that you'd be like, oh, okay, then I respect that.
Right,
I think he was a terrible human being.
Yeah, but that's what I look at these characters in that light where it's like, yeah, they all doing trash. That's why you get the Mo Bell Bondsman moments because I'm like, everybody got a little trait about him. So I think this is just an interesting trait about Johnny Sack. I did want to ask 2 questions. One is Johnny Sack in your top 5 overall characters?
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's huge because he ain't even got the same kind of airtime as a lot of these other ones. So that's huge.
His presence was so like he's staying on business. I love the fact that Johnny Sack, he's staying on business.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
He might be culturally, like he might be. He's right up there with the Soprano crew as far as mention and favorite characters. Like, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Mention rap songs, all that stuff, man. Yeah, Johnny Sack, man. That's
he's at
101.
And quiet as kept. If some of you didn't know, the gentleman that plays Furio actually tried out to play the Johnny Sack role. They were looking for a John Gotti type of being and everything, and he had the long hair and stuff, and they were like, would you be open to cutting your hair? And I think he said yeah, he would be if it was a fit, but he felt that the gentleman that plays Johnny Sack, he felt that he was like kind of a better fit, so he backed out. But they liked him so much they came up with the Furio character, and then he was going back and forth about should I do the accent or not. And then when he made up the accent, like they was like, this is exactly like how we envision this character that we wanted to create. So it's very interesting that he ended up being Furio instead of Johnny Sack. It would have been a whole different show. I know we talked about last week with a recast. So it's
nobody else could have played Tony Soprano. Nobody else could have played Johnny Sack. Nobody else could have played Phil Leotardo. Like them three, and there's probably some more character, but those 3 off rip.
And Christopher.
Yeah, I can see Christopher too. You can say Junior maybe, but those 3 are like I think the top 3.
So you say like those are like straight like no.
I'm talking about just as far as I cannot see anybody. You can talk me into maybe somebody else playing Chris or Uncle Junior. You could talk me into the right person. I can see it. Those 3, they are those characters. Like that is Phil Lee. That's not Frank Vincent.
No, that's Phil Leotardo. Yeah, you're right.
Like, you feel me? So I just think they have that kind of impact on the show because like you just said, man, for Johnny Sack not to have the same type of screen time for Phil, we haven't even met Phil.
Yeah, and we're still
saying. And so for him to be just one of my favorites, that just says everything about that type of character and the way they were portrayed.
Great point. And I'll throw Ralphie in there too. No, there's just no way. Like y'all gonna see more of that. But and speaking of Ralphie,
fly, man. Ralphie fly this scene.
Oh man, I love this scene. I haven't watched this episode in a long time, y'all, because of obviously the content of the episode. But I'll speak a little bit more when we get to the ratings about how I felt about this episode. Not watching it in a long time, but we get this. Furio pulls up. He goes in. It looks like he goes to the pizza parlor, and they're having to sit down. Ralphie and Tony. And Tony just telling him, like, man, almost like he had to do with Richie. It's just like, bro, why do I have to ride you like this? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm going pause, but I'm going with Gigi here. I gotta, anyway, I was thinking about that. Y'all got the text. I listened to the last episode. That Bratworth thing was hilarious. I was crying at work, bro. But he basically tells him, like, look, I'm going with Gigi. And there is this thing that Tony says that I really like. And it's this thing that he says that you have some bad tendencies. And I sympathize with that because I have them too. I thought that was a fire little connection there, man. And, this thing of how Ralphie kind of reacts was like, man, I've been to your house. He's like, this is business. And so there's some piece of him that I felt that was there in his mind of like some kind of weird family, maybe fatherly connection there that we may have not necessarily seen for a moment before it just completely breaks off. But what did y'all get from this kind of interaction between them two?
This separates what you said. I know you said similar to Richie. I think it's actually the opposite of Richie. That was pure rage and anger when he was on Richie's head. Like he was, why the fuck I gotta ride you like this? He had multiple of those assaults with him. This was more of a similarity. I think the fact that he would have never told Richie, like, I sympathize with you as well because I have the same things. Like he would have never approached it like that. He had small talk before he even gave him the news, but he still came like the boss. We've talked about Tony and Cigar. He got the pinky ring going in this scene. He looks like a mob boss. And he didn't give him the news. I mean, he stood on his 10, explained why, but he did it in a respectful manner. Much more respectful than he needed to, especially for the trouble that Ralphie causes. And it's one of those wake-up calls, like, bro, you got the potential, you it, but you got to clean this other shit up. And I need to make sure you know really clearly who's the boss. I also don't know if Tony looks at the potential ramifications of not making somebody like Ralphie captain. There's that weird line, that fine line of I'm still the boss and nobody's going to make me do anything. But in the long run, the right choice is to bump him up. Not only because he's a good earner, but because I don't want that headache. Like, this is going to ruffle some feathers. He's not going to leave it at this. I told him no fires. He goes beats the man up with clubs. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's how Ralphie is. He's always going to try to find the I'm not going to say it because it's definitely a pause moment. So, but he always try to find the other way to do it.
I thought there was some good points brought up by both of them as to the real reasoning behind it. And one of it was being you partnered up with Joe Brooklyn there with the port thing. I had to find out by that indirectly. The Arab shit, of course. I think that Tony did, like you said it, Rich, like he was a boss in this scene. He bullshitted around Richie for a little bit. Richie was trying to go into this bullshit story about his child. Like, wait, we ain't even here for that, bro. I want to let you know right now what's about to go down. And that's the difference, again, as we keep talking about with Richie and Ralphie. Though Ralphie was upset about it, he did have a thought process, and he thought, how'd you get there with Tony? Was it the shit with the Arab? Like, you could see him kind of trying to logically see how Tony got to that point, which is what makes him dangerous to Tony. Like, he's a thinker. He, like, Richie's not a thinker. Like, the few thinkers in this world, like Junior Soprano, Johnny Sackfield, who keep talking about, Ralphie is one of them. And those are the people that Tony have the biggest problems with. So he's trying to nip this in the bud earlier rather than later. And too, like Ralphie said, again, showing that he's a thinker. You just want your man's in over there so you can get the feedback. And later on in the episode, we see him giving the feedback from his man. So Ralphie's spot on about everything that he's saying.
Y'all think
smart, man?
Y'all think Ralphie knew Johnny Sack was moving there?
Hell yeah.
Ooh.
Ralphie definitely knew.
Ooh.
And which is the reason Tony brought up the port shit. It's a whole lot of chess playing and backroom jostling around with these guys when we get to this stage of it. Because, again, Ralphie's smart. I'm going to throw this out here about the Brooklyn shit to even see if you bite.
We get the Melfi and Tony, another therapy scene, and this is where she really emphasizes that he needs behavior therapy. And I don't know if y'all noticed, but in this episode, it seems like they're shooting a lot of close-ups. this episode. I don't know what that means. If it's, I mean, I'm sure it has some kind of significance. Either it has meaning or it has no meaning. But I just thought it was an interesting way of shooting this episode. They did a lot of close-ups, and I mean, maybe they're just flexing the budget, but it looks really good. But anything y'all gather from this, because Tony goes off on a behavior thing, and then it's like there's this moment where she gets kind of vulnerable and says, like, he's like, okay, if you don't want me out, then I can just, and she's like, well, I'm just, she kind of backtracked, like Spike doesn't like when people do, and she says, oh, I was just introducing the idea. I mean, and so this weird attachment is still there. What did y'all gather from this scene?
Just that decision about cutting things off with Tony is not hers. That's Elliot in her head. That's Richard in her head. That's not her decision. You see it clearly right now. As soon as he flips it on her, she gets, turns into a kid again. Like, all right, then never mind. Like, I got you. I just want to lay it out as an option.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think she wants the challenge. Like, I feel like the Elliot guys, one of the other things that it speaks to in a larger perspective, we talk about some of the things that they say, those guys are lazy in a sense. Like, they got their careers made out. Like, they in cruise control damn near. Mm-hmm. Dr. Melfi's 10 years younger than them. She's passionate about what she does. Like, the fact that Tony throws it out, it's like, yes, okay, like you said, she turns into a kid again. Like, she has a passion for this that they don't have. So that's why she feels like that she can fix or help him.
Yeah, that's a great pull. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. We get her leaving, and she's on the phone with her husband, Richard, and she goes down the hallway, and we see somebody going up the hallway. And then we just get this awful scene of the employee of the month, Rosso, Jesus Rossi, actually. And he pretty much drags her and he rapes her in the hallway. Yeah. What do y'all think about this?
Really nothing to say, man.
Okay. It's a tough scene, right? It's probably one of the toughest scenes. It did make me think. I would rate, like, it's gonna sound crazy, but I would put rape and like molestation above murder. Like, at some point, somebody can justify to you, oh, they did this to me, so like it was either me or him. Like, there's some scenarios where you could be like, oh, okay, I see why he killed dude. There's never a scenario for me in my head where a motherfucker could be like, oh, okay, that's why you raped her, or that's why you molested that child. Those are the top two, like, worst criminal things you could do to me: rape and molestation, even over murder, in my opinion. Like, it's sick shit to watch.
I think because you gotta live through it, and that's kind of the thing. I think when I look at how you're rating, that's how I would kind of see it that way too. If we're looking at it like in a ranking here, because it is like you leave them there worse off almost than like just dying. You leave them there now you pick up the pieces, and that psychological and emotional warfare that you're going to deal with after molestation or being sexually abused like that is ridiculous.
And to Spike's point as well, everything you just said, Mo, and Spike said it, like, it's no, judge says, why you shoot him? I shot him because he killed my son. All right. So as a human, you can understand, like, damn, murder fucked up, but he ain't just do it out the blue. There's no excuse in none of this type of shit. Ever. There's none of it. And it instantly makes you angry. Like, it's one of those moments where you wish that you were walking down the stairwell and seeing that shit so you can, like, literally beat the fuck out of dude. Because it's, and I think the show, that was her point. Obviously, it's very disturbing to watch. But also the show, man, this is what happens. This is the reality of it. And if it makes you uncomfortable, think about, the real victims and everybody who's going through this in real life.
Yeah.
To be more aware and things of that nature. But it's rough, man. I can understand if people don't want to watch this episode or skip through the scenes. I think every elite show has a scene like that where it's just,
oh yeah,
it's a lot.
Absolutely,
it's a lot, man.
And this thing it's a couple of things outside of like the fact that it's happening, but there was nothing validates any of this, so don't take it the wrong way for those that are listening. But like, there's that thing that Melfi had spoke about, like just being unaware when in season 1, when Makazian had beat up Randall, who she was dating at the time, and she just was so unaware of like the action can meet her front porch. And this is kind of another one of those moments where it's like, even though it's nothing on her fault, it ain't by affiliation of Tony Soprano or anything, but it just shows a couple of things where it's like it can meet your front door. Like nobody's really off limits. Like it don't matter who you know, you're not off limits to things happening, even if they're terrible, unfortunately. And then even this guy, we'll get to reveal later, but as horrible as he is, and we of course psychologically we don't put him in the same space as the mob guys. We just don't do it because we look at like Spike said, it's like, oh, they're murdering, but they got a purpose. You owe me, you this, you're that, you this, but this guy's doing something totally more horrible. And we do look at it like that. But also on the flip side of while he's terrible, he's obviously living a double life like most of these mob guys. So I don't know if that's even intentional, because we see like, whoa, how can two things be true? You know what I'm saying? How is that possible? How could you do something so heinous, but yet on the other side of it be looked at in a whole different light? So there's a lot of mind manipulating, I feel like, happening here in a interesting way. And then to get I believe the next episode or somewhere down in this episode where we get another heinous thing to say, oh, okay, this is a stranger. And then it's like, okay, now we got somebody that's a friend of ours. And now how do you feel now? You know, just to kind of, they really just do a great job here, but I hate this. This is a horrible scene. Obviously, we don't have to spend much more time on like the deed in action.
I think you just I think now that you mentioned that, Mo, I think it is intentional. You know, I think the Sopranos always is trying to aim at that. There is no right or wrong. There is no good or bad. There's a lot of gray area, and it's up to you, because we never see in moments like that. It's not often that we see someone who does something so heinous also be portrayed as employee of the month. You think of employee of the month, oh, this is the person I want helping me, or whatever the case is. But the absolute, completely other end of the spectrum is being a terrible person. There's something in there that lets me believe that they did that on purpose.
Yeah. Who are you when you leave work?
Also, it was a good point about bringing it to your door. I feel like in this world, there are only a few characters that are like pure, that don't have that duality to them, like Meadow probably, and Dr. Melfi. Like those are the two, like they know who they are and what they stand on, and you don't really see them scraggle the line a lot. And for this to happen to Melfi says a lot about this show. Even how it ended, you're not able to avoid it, even if you're a good person. This is just what's happening in the world. Yeah. So I think that was a good point, man.
Yeah, we go to the hospital scene, and you know, Richard's there, and she says she thinks that her leg is broke, and they're going through the whole thing, trying to investigate, figure out what's going on. Richard harps on the fact that his last name is Rossi, and he spoke in the earlier scene about, you know, the Italians known to have last names that end in a vowel, and so that's immediately what he goes by. It's like Rossi, and it's like, I thought y'all said he was like Spanish. I thought he was, you know, because his first name's Jesus, and so that is like, I mean, that part was kind of an interesting thing. It's like, what is he? Is he this or that? You know, I don't know, but or maybe he's both. But I just thought it was an interesting thing. But she obviously doesn't like that, and then her son comes in, and I got to tell you, I loved her son's rage right here. I really did, because I was like, he is reacting like how she's looking for Richard to react. He is the voice of what Melfi feels internally before she's able to process how she's feeling later with Elliot. So the son comes in, he's mad, and he's willing to do whatever it takes. He may have not actually killed somebody, but he wanted to do something. Him coming in broke the order of how things need to go. We need to get out of this civilized, let's work the system, this and that. We need to get past this, and let's be a human for a second. This is not a therapy session. This is not we got to do this. This is real life events, and it's happening. And I think it just highlights kind of the mob mentality in a way. It was like, they got the knob turned all the way up on, like, nah, we doing it our own way. But in some kind of way, these things you could see, if anybody has a traumatizing thing that's in the mob, and this was like a foundational thing, you can definitely see, okay, well, at least I can understand how you ended up here. So I just really liked him in this scene. But what did y'all get from this hospital scene?
Is that his dad?
Yeah.
That is his
dad. So
yeah, they had family therapy, and season 1.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could see the son being upset like that. Um, I didn't really take too much from it other than what you said. You made a good point.
Yeah. All I really got was the fact that we feel some relief as an audience. They got the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You gotta go down and identify him and stuff like that. So it was at the end. And like you said, Jason was ready to air some shit out. So as he should have been. But that's pretty much all I got. And Richard's obsession with ethnicity and Rossi and blah, blah, blah. Probably wondering if this was any kind of relation to maybe something Tony had to do with it. I don't know. That would have been a far left field thing, but he already has his apprehension. When she was going down the stairs, she was talking on the phone with him, saying, yes, I saw him today. Yes, I brought up, behavioral therapy. So I don't know. He has this obsession with Tony. So it doesn't surprise me that his mind went directly there.
Yeah. We go to Melfi. She calls the Sopranos house, and this time it ain't Tony picking up the phone. It's Carmela. Boy, did he dodge a bullet. Carmela picks up, and she pretty much, I like that she's like not bothered by it like she was season 1 when she found out that it was a woman therapist. And so, she basically has to cancel. And, Tony is like really concerned because he thinks that she's telling her she's been in a car accident. She got to cancel. And Tony goes off on his maid for a second. And this moment where like he's putting way too his cards, like his poker face is not good, and he plays it way too heavy. I'm like, is she okay? I hope she's. Man, that's crazy. Like he's getting too into it. He's showing more concern than maybe he's shown Carmela over the past few years or months. And so Carmela starts to pick up on it. So what does he do? Hey, she was saying we should probably do therapy together because, like, dude, that was so funny to me, bro. Like, cause I'm a husband and I know what time it is when you be like, okay, you know what? Let me lean on. So like, yeah, you remember you said you wanted to, let's go ahead and do that. When you want to do it, like,
that's hilarious.
But
I think she was bothered though. Like Carmela was bothered by the car. She still hasn't gotten over the fact that Dr. Melfi is his doctor. And again, like you said, him laying it on thick in his concern really didn't help at all. But as a husband, like you say, he picked up on that. Like, so good shot for him, and he threw that out there. And I think they kind of lowered her defense mechanisms. Like she was kind of in a sense, oh, okay, like I do want to know what's going on in there. So yeah, absolutely.
Hey man, her knee, really? What happened? Did she say
yeah,
like he was?
Bro,
hey man, what? Carmela was looking at this nigga like, hold up, man.
Something I need to know.
Carmela resting bitch faces in the hall.
Oh, it's Hall of Fame.
Definitely. That'll make you spill all the beans. Her looking at you like that. You're like, God damn, what
first ballot. Like he knew it right away.
Yeah,
he knew it right away. Him telling the maid to go find some dust is comedy.
It is.
You know what I always find funny about this scene is really arbitrary and random. The fact that he's looking for cake and it ends up with some raw celery. Yeah. How you go from that end of the spectrum to the other? Like Tony just want to eat some shit, man.
Yeah,
pause.
That's it.
Who the fuck eats celery like that either? That's crazy.
Right.
Yeah, you ain't got no blue cheese. You ain't got no ranch, no peanut butter
out of the fridge and was just running.
Yeah, like, just started going at it.
Yeah, and maybe it shows some growth in like I don't know, some kind of way eating the gabagool versus the celery. I don't know. After getting that kind of revelation, and I don't know, maybe not. I could be reading too far into it, but nonetheless, that was funny. Just playing it heavy. Richard and Jennifer.
Hope she don't need stitches, man.
Yeah,
stitches. Man. Hey, man. Tony was. Hey, Carmela. That once again, expression acting. Yeah, man. Hall of Fame. First ballot.
Like, picked everything up. And I agree with you, Spike. I do think that she's not necessarily. She still don't like the idea of a woman therapist, but remember season 2, she pushed for him to go back to therapy. You need to go back. I still don't quite understand this. So, we get, but like I said, we get Jennifer Melfi and Richard Melfi. That's weird saying Richard Melfi. I don't know. But they basically, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, wait a minute. Cause I always looked at the name kind of feminine in a way. So it's just weird, I guess, but, But Richard calls the detective about the case and says, he just says the rape so casually. Like, this is speaking to, again, that right at your front door. He probably hasn't had experiences like that. And this is probably the closest thing, even though secondhand, it's the closest thing Richard probably has had to like a real issue or problem or tragedy hitting his front door, because he's kind of got this buttoned up idea of society and how life is. He can't even fathom how people are gangsters or mob guys. So this is the closest thing I feel that, and we'll get a little bit later on him, but he tells her everything. Like, basically they juggled. I think this is the part where they juggled the evidence, and so they had to let him off. And so she wanted to hear it for herself. Oh man, this was tough, man. This was really tough. What did y'all get from this scene?
Same thing you said, man.
Yeah, Richard is useless in the grand scheme of things for Dr. Melfi. The type of approach that he takes, like you're saying, it's not comforting to her at all as a woman. And he just comes off as like just his pretentious asshole again.
Yeah, you bitching. All you doing is bitching. You ain't doing nothing about it. You just bitching about it.
You ain't doing shit. Yeah.
This is all he knows, unfortunately. And I mean, we get that later scene where he starts to pick up on, okay, I need to have a different reaction to this. You can't be mad at Richard, because this is what he knows. This is all he's familiar with in his actual life. It seems like he grew up a certain kind of way, and he's not familiar. So I don't know how to get angry, right? I don't know how to bring the fire to your front door. I'm not that type of guy. Like, I'm not going to pick up a gun or fight you. Like, even if it's something this serious, he ain't got the processes in his mind to figure out how to even get there. You know what I mean? So I don't feel bad for him. We don't like him, but I'm not mad at him for not necessarily reacting, because I don't think it's even in him. Like, it's if it's in you, dog, or it ain't in him.
I feel like it's always in people. You just don't. It's got to be something to bring it out. Like, I think J. Cole had a line like everybody a killer. You just got to push them to the limits. I just feel like that's one of them limit moments, man. I'll be on the streets ready to. I'm telling you, like we talked in the group chat about Coco.
Let's pull up.
Yeah, we talked in the group chat about Coco later seasons. Like, they just today in 2023 be pulling me off of Coco. That shit they just be pulling me off of him. Like, you feel me? So I just feel like it's cool and laid back and reserved as you can be. And like you said, I'm not trying to blame him the way he blamed her. Like, I'm not trying to victim blame, because he 100% victim blamed her for
blockage like crazy.
Thing. And
I think that's the overall.
This scene shows that Melfi's you said it, Mo. Melfi's not above the system. Like, the system played her. They played her like something so clear cut, and it's very clear cut. I know the dude. It's not a guessing game. You don't have to find no evidence. You don't need no DNA. This is the dude, like him right there. And the fact that I can tell you that, and you still can't do anything about it. You know who he is. You know where he works. All types of stuff. He just gets to walk the streets free. Like, come on now. Like, what type of shit is that? And her being a civilian who lives life right. She can't comprehend that. Like, I did everything they told me to do. I went to college, I paid my taxes, raised a family. In moments like this, the right thing is supposed to happen to me. And she's realizing that, nah, it's not.
Yeah. Man, it's...
Yeah, and he never shows any compassion. Like, he's just being a straight dipshit. Like, even when she finds out that they let him go, like, oh, you got to get escorted to the... Like, he didn't hug her. Oh, it's okay. Like, he didn't offer any form of comfort that a man in that situation should offer. Even if you ain't hitting the streets, like you said, Rich, and we finna go get this dude, the very least I think that she would expect of someone who's sharing a home with her in a marriage is like to offer some compassion. That nigga didn't hug like nothing. I'm sorry this happened. Like, he just kept it moving to, all right, this is how we prevent it next time. And I think that you brought up a good point, Mo. He's not built like that. He is a lifelong dipshit. Like, these are the ways that problems get handled in his world. He's used to being able to talk that white man talk to people, and I can get out of this, or I can make stuff happen by calling my attorney. But bro, this situation doesn't call for that. He totally missed the mark.
Yeah. That's a great point too, Spike. I just, this scene also emphasizes that he didn't hug her and be compassionate because he blames her for this shit. He blames her for this, which goes even further to your point about him being a dipshit.
He lacks the complexity that, even though
I couldn't even imagine like flipping this on, like somebody I love and care about,
and you on the phone with me, like that's the crazy.
And you are on the phone with me,
It ain't like you just lollygagging. You were talking on the phone with somebody. I told you don't get straight to the car, and that's it. You on the phone with me. It's but again, like he lacks the complexity that a Tony Soprano has. You look at him like he's terrible and he's trash, but yet she can understand these things, like your mother telling you, you know, I'm gonna stick a fork in your eye, or you know, you seen that your mother finds pleasure in cutting up deli meat. It's as close as it is to like you seeing a finger being chopped off. You understand how you ended up at this place. Your mother having a personality disorder. You start to understand these complexities versus a Richard. It's like, bro, you don't understand this. You don't have the complexity to understand what's going on. You're so basic in your thinking. You're 10 years older. You're so old school and basic. You have to blame somebody. Like you don't even understand. Sometimes it's more than one person or one factor, and it's not Melfi's fault at all. Let's be very clear. But like, you lack the complexity that my patients have, that I can talk through things. I can't even go home and talk through things with my husband because you don't have the layers like that. You're just so basic, and that's why I think that, yeah, this is probably what the issue was, why they were separated. You know, I believe in their marriage. This has to be a part of it. You know,
do you think it was misdirected as Richard told her? You know, when she says, like, you should have seen your face once you realized he had an Italian name, or you that embarrassed by the misdeeds of other Italians that it messes up your self-esteem. And he tells her, you know, this is so misdirected. Do you think that what we believe is right as far as, he has, you know, we said it too. Like, as soon as he heard Rossi, he kind of went about it a certain way. Do you think Melfi just because she took a swipe at him?
Yeah, she did.
She her legs won't help you, but she swung.
Yeah.
Like, she's angry. Rightfully so.
Rightfully so. She wants to see him get angry. Because in some facets, anger shows you care. And I don't
towards her. Like his anger is directed at her.
Yeah, but even then, well, he was like mad at the phone call and the people. And I mean, he was having like kind of a back and forth with her type deal, but even him calling him misdirected, I don't think he was getting to the same level of like anger. But I do think she's a therapist, so she's very intentional with what she's saying. But I do think she was at that moment looking for you to be angry. I need a reaction. Anger, like I said, it shows you care sometimes. If I get a reaction to you, I know you're alive. I know you're breathing. I know you are in the loop of what's happening. You're not doing any of those things.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, man. Like, that's a problem. That's why I think that it does change. And even moving forward, her relationship with Tony Soprano, and it built this right here, probably, unfortunately, changes the skin of Jennifer Melfi now. Now I'm prepared to deal with tough things. I was scared at the end of season 1, coming into season 2 for my life, because he was in a mob and he told me to get out of town. I was scared of him when he got in my face. I was scared, but after this, when she's a woman and she unfortunately has to bounce back out of this, it builds thicker skin. I'm not really scared of you. We're gonna see a little bit where she will lash back at Tony. Like she been through it in this unfortunate way, but it builds a thicker skin for Dr. Melfi later down the road now. You know, so it's just a very interesting thing, bro.
Yeah, man, extremely unfortunate as well.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right, man. I just hate that.
Yeah,
I hate that it happens to anybody. Obviously,
yeah, me too. Yeah,
yeah.
We go to the Bada Bing, and bro, I just made a clip on IG. I go follow us, Good Earner Pod _Sopranos. But bro, these guys were going in on Jenny Sachs so crazy. Oh my gosh, bro. I had to chop up a clip. This was so freaking funny because it's like, it's this slow buildup. It's like, and I don't know about y'all. When we talk about, y'all probably don't talk about, but like we talk about people's laughs, like, cause you know, some people got contagious laughs, right? That like you could be around them and the way they laugh, you'll just start kind of laughing because you're like, man, what's so funny? Like Silvio's laugh, like that kind of like, you know, high, like kind of halfway, like laughing, like how he's like got that look like, like dude, his laugh just drew me in, like in the way they kept building up the jokes. Like you put your hands around her, your hands will disappear. Oh my gosh, bro!
Man, I just went in on Jenny, man. I forgot how early the Jenny Sachs jokes came in.
Me too.
I didn't know they started the very first episode we see her. I couldn't remember that.
Me too.
Like they did not play.
Who had the best? I wanted to ask who had the best joke. I can run them down if y'all need me to.
Run them down.
All right. Silvio says that her blood type is ragu. Paulie says you try to put your hands around her and your hands will disappear. Paulie says she has to hide. The bears have to hide their food from her. Tony says that her ass is so big that she got to take 2 trips to the bathroom. Gigi says she moved. Gigi says she moved to Jersey and it might tip the state over. And Gigi also says that
she got her own zip code.
Gigi had the best one.
2 men can be banging her and still have never met each other.
That's the best one, man.
That's the bar.
That was it.
That was it. The last one. The last joke was the best.
Oh my gosh, bro! Like,
2 guys can fuck her at the same time and still never meet.
That's
you know
crazy.
How big you gotta be, shit.
Bro. That's crazy. Like in the vicinity of where you're at, it's crazy. Oh man, like okay, so Gigi gets the.
That's so wild.
That's
so
wild.
wild.
Like, it's like, huh?
That was a wild roast session.
That
right
was
there,
man. That's why I had to chop it up crazy because
really
it was so funny. I was like, whoa, and it's like they kept building up, like, like, dude, they was, yeah, that was. Like, I love when dudes be doing that.
What?
That's to let y'all
so
in. Yeah, exactly. To break y'all in on the 4th wall. This is how Rich does me every week in the group chat. He starts building up like this. This is exactly what Rich does. He's like the whole crew in one. Like he just starts going crazy. This is to let y'all in. Yeah, he starts building up and getting that Silvio laugh going. I could tell. So
man, you should be so funny, Mo.
Nah, that's I shouldn't be so funny. That's hilarious. But Johnny Sack pulls up and they do the classic like get quiet all of a sudden. You never quite have like a way to detour the joke into something else. Like it's never because you never expect it. I've never seen somebody steamball it and when there's good laughter in the room into something else. You could talk and be talking and then move into something else. But like laughing, I've never seen anybody turn into because I was saying and go to something totally different and people laughing. I've never seen it. So this is like real on brand for like having this behavior of talking about this man's wife or whatever.
I love Silvio's face when Johnny walked in. He looked over like, "Oh shit!" Silvio had the best expression. If anybody's ever paid attention to it, man, he kind of looks because Silvio just makes funny faces.
Yeah, that's why he's so funny to me. Like his face is just like, and he's so serious. Like it's very genuine. But Johnny Sachs walks in and he's like, "Man, what y'all doing? Like y'all ain't see what the assemblyman was talking about?" And they turn the TV on. I didn't like Johnny Sachs coming in like this, bro. We just had this conversation, bro. Like, this is my thing. Don't come up in a bada bing talking to my guys like this. You're New York, I'm Jersey. Like, I just didn't like him.
That's the problem that he had with him moving over there.
Yeah.
And you right here around the corner just popping up on niggas and shit.
Yeah. So, but what did y'all get? Did y'all get anything from the assemblyman and the Newark Museum of Science and Trucking and the Esplanade, which
bag getting bigger. They running it up. This is elevating Tony's status. I love how they continue to move Tony's like net worth and his value to the mob. They move that through TV or newspapers and all of those things. You never really directly address it.
Yep.
Because it ain't really what the story is about, but it shows that they just made a major play.
Yeah. This is how we get season 6 Tony.
All contracts alone. Hey.
Yeah. This is how we get season 6 Tony. This is literally how we get there. It's these type of rackets and stuff like that. Anything else y'all want to add to that bada bing scene?
Fuck who? What? What's so funny?
Funny?
Johnny Sack was not going.
Zip it up, bro.
Shit a little too funny for me, man. Y'all laughing a little too hard. What's going on?
And that's a trait of Johnny Sacks too, where he's really insecure. Like that's when we talk about a good trait, him being with his wife, he's also a really insecure guy, I believe. It's weird because he's smooth and confident, but yet insecure. Because we see like a lot of either it's insecure or paranoid. I don't know which one y'all want to label it, but he's one of these things for sure to me. Like you see the behavior over the series, and I'm like, okay, he's one of these two. But I don't know which one to.
I have to revisit that at a more pivotal Johnny. Moment, but I think that's interesting.
Okay. All right. We get Tony chops a log and Chris. It's always interesting when Chris pops up for like
that,
one.
You got Dr. Melfi and Richard.
Oh, right. My bad. The video is still playing. My bad. Dr. Melfi and Richard, they're having this conversation and just kind of elaborating back on what they were talking about earlier. And you see, like, this is so funny. You see Richard trying to forecast or trying to like manufacture a reaction that he thinks his wife is looking for by like kind of getting angry, and they zoom in on his hands. And I don't know how intentional it was, but it's like his hands like look nice. Like, like you've never got dirty. You've never been in the mud. You never had to get physical. I don't know. And I don't know if that's what they were saying, but I think zooming in on his hands, like he's probably got manicured hands. He's, you know what I mean? Like there's no bloody knuckles or scratches or anything, but did y'all get anything else from this, like this small scene other than this manufactured anger that he really didn't feel?
That's exactly what they were saying. That's why the very next scene they open up with Tony chopping wood, pause.
Right.
Swinging an axe, you know what I mean? Just showing I'm a manly. I use my hands out here in these streets. You know, Melfi looked at him, balling his fists. You know, it's just like you said, it's fake. I don't even believe you. Like you a little nigga.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like in Liar Liar when my man tried to do the claw with the one finger. Like that ain't it. That ain't the claw.
That's
like,
not the claw.
I know you trying. I appreciate your effort, but you ain't got it, and it's not your fault. You just ain't him.
Yeah. Great point. Liar Liar reference. Who thought we would have it on Sopranos?
Right.
I love it. This man full of the references. Reference Rich over here. But is that you agree with all that pretty much, Mike?
Yes, I agree with that. 100%.
Okay. But like you said, transitioning, Tony chops the log and Chris is here, and Chris says that Jackie was he was good on the whole thing other than peeing in the car seats. Which I think it was funny, even though I don't think it was like necessarily, and maybe it was intentional, because I know David Chase is a stickler for how the script is written. The words, say it exactly like how I put it. Like, don't twist it, don't improv it. So him saying that, him pissing on the car seats, it's almost like you're like a kid or a baby. You're in a car seat. So I don't know. It just seemed like a weird way to say it. Just that saying the seats. It's car seats. I don't know. I don't know. It just felt weird. But Chris just tells him, like, look, this is basically referencing the phone call from the last episode, saying like, hey, look, it won't happen again. I was just out of it, basically. But Tony sets him up, and he told him meet at Sacriel, and Tony never showed up. And he said, now you see how I feel. Hilarious. Hilarious.
What, Tony Soprano shit right there.
Spike, what did you get from this little interaction? I don't think we get Chris except for like one more little piece of here, but not really no dialogue. What did you get from this scene?
I think they building up the Jackie Jr. thing as to showing us, the audience, that he's going to be some type of player or something that's going to revolve around this Jackie Jr. situation, because it keeps coming up. He was out with Chris. Now Ralphie took him out. Now Tony's asking about it. Tony had bring him to dinner. They talking about Meadow as far as them two being a thing. So I think that this scene doubles down on the Jackie Jr. and it being a big part of either this season or another season. No spoilers. But yeah, I think that it's planting the seed for what Jackie Jr. is going to mean to the show. And how Tony feel about it. And not forgetting about the recording device. We almost forgot that was down there.
Boy.
Yeah, that was a great reminder that the feds are still listening. The soft spot that Tony has for Jackie, which means he has it for Jackie Jr. I think that's why you see him being so affectionate with Chris. Telling him he loves him, stuff like that, just because he sees maybe an alternate path. And these are his guys. He wants to make sure they taken care of. And the feds are some dipshits too. Whose moniker is Lord Fuck Pants or whatever it was.
Whose moniker?
Come on, bro.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Come on. They're busting balls.
They're useless now.
They are.
Waste of tax. Well, I don't know if it's tax dollars or not, but you get what I'm saying.
I mean, clearly they let Employee of the Month get off. It's definitely wasted tax dollars. Yeah, I think this is just an interesting thing that even Chris walks off kind of like this little boyish figure walking up the stairs and waving at Tony. It's just very interesting to me. And I feel Chris in this scene. It's like, bro, Like, why is it okay for Jackie you to protect him and keep telling him to go to college, but you gave me such issue? Don't get me wrong. Now Chris was out of pocket because you shouldn't be trying to teeter both. Do the movie stuff or don't do the mom stuff, but you ain't gonna do both. So he was definitely out of pocket with that, trying to like blur the lines of trying to teeter on both sides of it. But it's just like almost like he's like, man, I wish somebody, he's like looking for somebody. I wish somebody would have pushed me to say this ain't for you. But instead, I'm seeing the effort of him being the heir to the throne, and he clearly wants his nose in this thing of ours, and you're pushing for him not to. And he went with Ralphie. You talked about that. He went with me, but you're still trying to push this otherwise. You're putting a lot of effort into saying, I'm not going to let you do this on my watch. But where was this for me?
We know that Tony was cool with Chris's dad.
Yeah, Dickie.
Yeah, Dickie Montasani. I think one of the best traits about people like Tony Soprano or any other shows, you see this, the foresight that they have as gangsters, as criminals. You probably could tell from an earlier age that Chris was set up for this. I know his dad. I know Chris, like it's not going to be any denying him from this life. Even if he does have a higher potential, this gangster shit is going to be in his blood. With Jackie, I don't think that Tony sees that. And like you said, the commendable traits of a lot of characters on this show, like Tony's trying to save Jackie from what may happen to him, because he can tell that Jackie is not this. Like, just like I knew Dickie Montasante and Chris's dad, I knew your dad as well. I knew how he raised you, and at no point in time were you set up to live this life. But since your dad's dead, you're around it more. You think that you could do it because, I mean, you're so close to it. But I see Tony looking at Jackie as like, bro, you're a kid, bro. Like, this ain't in you at all. Like, your blood basically pumping Kool-Aid. Like, I know that you're not built for this, is what Tony is looking at it like. That's the reason for the dinner in the last episode. And then Chris, on the other hand, like, Chris is about that life. Like, Chris is he was a young, shining, up and coming star, or whatever it may be. And mainly because Tony took him under his wing early. I think that Tony thinks about what's his name?
Jackie Jr.
Yeah, nobody ever taught you this game, and it's too late for you to learn, bro. Go to school, it's over.
Yeah, I also think it's important to bring up, Mo, your point. You said, you making me choose between the movies and the mob. You on my case about that. Jackie's not in it yet. Chris was already in the life, and then decided midway that he wanted to do a pivot into movies. I think that plays a part of it as well. Like, you still are fresh. Like, you don't even have any dirt on you for real. I'm trying to keep that dirt off of you. Little by little, you getting some behind the back, but I don't even want you being involved or getting a taste of it. Pause.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, Spike. I just disagree. I think Chris, if anything, his father died much younger. So it's like he had more of a chance. You had more of an impact and influence to tell him not to. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like Jackie's at that age where he's a college boy. He's freshman, sophomore at best. So he's maybe 20. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like
he's 23.
Oh, he's 23.
Okay, so remember, Ralphie say he's a 23-year-old kid, pissed off, living at home. He got a chip on his shoulder.
All right, so 23. So there you go. That's prime. Like, you got enough like physique. You got enough mental. I just feel like, honestly, looking at it from these lenses, I just think that it's no difference really to me. Like, it's no difference. You're the heir. It's in your blood. It's in his blood. Like, Dickie died younger for Chris, so it's like you could have steered Chris otherwise. Like, so it's like, I don't think I think what could have paid off, it didn't, but what could have paid off is him taking Jackie on a run. Say, okay, instead of Ralphie, let's see. But because I just don't think that nothing is different. There's nothing about this that's different to me. Both your fathers is in the mob, and go ahead.
No, you finish. Go ahead.
I was just saying, we could try to go technical with it, but I just don't think so. Like,
the biggest difference is what the whole show is about. And Tony didn't have as much experience in the mob when Chris was getting in as he does now. Tony's speaking from a totally different perspective. And what we've always talked about with this show, what it addresses is Tony's getting in on the end of this thing. Like, it ain't when he and Chris probably started, or when Chris started to get into it, their outlook on it was much different, because they thought that this is the life. This is what we want to do. Everybody before has done it. Now that he's living it and he sees it, and he knows that Jackie would be getting in on the back end of it too. Plus, I made this promise to your dad that I was going to keep you out of it. Those are the reasons that he's looking at it differently from Chrissy. Not just a personality thing, but how the game is now. This ain't what you want, young buck. I'm telling you. Like, this is not like 10 years ago when Chris came and it was a lot better and things were different. Yeah, we're going to take you on a run. We're going to do these things because we think that this life is what it's about. 10 years later, I'm the boss. I see how shit goes. I see the motherfuckers is getting killed behind this, and it's a lot different than what I thought it was. Plus, I feel like we're on the back end of it. I want to be able to keep my promise to your dad and keep you out of this. It's a dying game.
It is a dying game, absolutely.
Yeah.
Melfi goes to the office since the injury or since the mishap of the tragedy that's happened to her of being abused. And Tony, you know, they're having a conversation. He sees her and notices she's limping, and you know, I know his heart goes out. He's trying to help her and everything, and you know, he's trying to connect her. He's like, hey, you know, I know a woman with one leg. Like, this doesn't have anything to really do with it, but you understand it's like it's a horrible thing. But Melfi makes a point about not being able to control everything, and Tony says that's why you direct your anger. You know, I thought it was just it's almost like he provided something for her right here in this moment. But Rich, what did you get from this scene right here?
One of the most important things is just the PTSD of having to walk past that spot, that scene of the crime every single day just to get to your place of employment. It's actually kind of surprising she doesn't even get a new office.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's rough. That's just rough. But she's on edge. And obviously we mentioned it earlier with the Carmela scene, but Tony cares about Dr. Melfi on a human level. He noticed that she's off. He noticed that she's startled when the cane drops. You know, innocent person driving along and the asshole drives into them. It's funny because normally in everyday to-day life, Tony is that asshole that drives into people. There's plenty of innocent people who are affected by his decisions. And it's always funny when he never realizes or picks up on it himself. That's why I said earlier, when I thought that the Employee of the Month thing was intentional, because it's all about how you look at it and what world you live in. Yeah. In my world, I'm doing the right thing. If innocent people get hurt, so be it. It's all for the good cause of what I'm doing in my world. So him giving her that speech and that talk, I thought it was pretty, you know, like I said, even though it was unintentional, it was pretty telling. And how do you get people to do what you want? You said this whole time, Tony is there. You guys have been on the head since season 1. Like, Tony is there to enhance his ability to be a mob boss and to calm people and to get what he needs.
Anything you add to that?
Agreed. No, that was
you agree?
Perfect. Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Jackie Jr. is at the Sopranos house, and what is it, a coffee maker or
espresso machine?
Espresso machine. It kind of looks like the one that Paulie buys later in the series to me. Like, I was like, is this? Okay. But yeah, he comes over, and Jackie, he keeps approaching Tony, not understanding his positioning. Like, he's like, yeah, you skipping over Ralph. You're like, bro, like, he called him Tone. Like, he just all the way out of pocket. He's riding his dad privilege so crazy. Like, Tony's giving him grace only off of that man, out of respect for his father. Like, it's just funny. Meadow comes in and he's like, "What you doing here?" He get his game off. He's like, "I've been waiting for you." I'm like, "Nah, I like that." I was like, "I like that little bold." See, he just has certain traits that could have worked for him. He just needed to be groomed. Like, to do that in front of Tony is crazy. You know,
Tony looked at him like, "Nigga,
like, bro, like,
smack the shit out of you right
straight
now.
up. Like, who you talking to, bro? You talking to me? Oh, okay, yeah, I've been waiting for you too. Yeah,
but
yeah, you ain't talking about us.
I think these little things are the things that Tony sees and that he knows that Jackie not built for this, bro. Like, you come talking to me about business. Like, who are you? Like the famous Johnny say, like, is somebody talking? Oh, excuse me, the Junior line. Like, is somebody saying something? I'm sorry.
And it's funny because that was Jackie Jr. too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Tony sees it like all the way around. He's just not built for this, man. He's too loose at the lips. You like goofy. Your thought process is off. It's like Jackie Jr. is a brat. Chris not a brat.
I wouldn't say that.
I don't think Chris is a brat.
I mean, season 1. Come on. Anyways, but
he started off as one. He got better.
He got better. And again, I said, like, if Jackie was groomed, who knows what it could have been. But I see what you're saying. Like, the earlier reach of Tony connection with Chris, I get it. I do get that. But Meadow tells him about African American. There's African Americans that go to Columbia at her school. Like it was no reason. It's just like, say the word boogeyman. Like it's like there's no reason for Meadow to do this, and she just knew, I'm going to blow his lid with just saying anything black related. And she walks off, and Jackie says, "Hey, Tone, I won't say anything about the black thing or African American thing." Like you're holding some kind of.
You giving her too much credit. He said Mulian.
Oh yeah, the Mulian.
Yeah.
Mulian. Yeah, like. Oh man, bro, it's just funny. It's like,
hey,
why
man, Rafi called somebody a sand monkey this episode. There's a lot of racism this episode.
Yeah, they this world is full of it. Like I was talking to my wife about it. She's like, how could you? I'm like, you don't even understand. It's like it's a lot more than. But yeah, he storms out. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Jackie face when Tony was talking about the black dude was priceless.
Oh yeah,
priceless, priceless.
Because I believe Jackie don't feel that way. He from a different era. You know what I'm saying? Like
he feels the exact same way Tony does.
Yeah, like you fucking with it.
And he was shocked that Meadow was fucking with a black dude. He was like, he was 100% co-signing everything Tony was saying with that face.
I think the reason I don't think I think it is weird, but I don't think so necessarily, because I think we talked the generational thing in at the end, and kind of Christopher. I mean, yeah, sure, it's like, okay, that's weird for Meadow, but I don't think he necessarily has these same sentiments about like black people to the degree of, because every generation before probably gets more and more racist. You know what I'm saying? So even Tony's still willing to do business, but not dating each other's daughters or whatever. I think Jackie probably is looking like it's still crazy, but it's like Chris had the dude in season 1, the drug dealer, like, you know, running his rackets before Mikey Palmisi stepped on it or whatever. So I think that generationally, I think, and then even probably the next few after, they might not necessarily hold the same sentiment, but you know, anyway. But yeah, either way, it's a hilarious scene. Melfi, she goes to pick up some fast food at the Sopranos Popeye's Chicken, and she looks up, and there we see Jesus Rossi, and she drops her thing and leaves. And that's even crazier because she doesn't get the opportunity to identify him down at the police station because they let him off, but she identifies him right there at the Popeye's Chicken. So I don't know how much more to add to that, but I just thought that was an interesting thing. Anything y'all see, or we can keep moving?
Just a reveal, yeah.
Reveal. That was a big reveal.
Hotter than a Popeyes is crazy.
That is crazy.
Are we sure this is a Popeyes? We know that he was found at a Popeyes after the assault. They found him at a Popeyes. Are we sure that he works at the Popeyes?
Well,
this is like a little sandwich spot.
Like, yeah, I'm about to say, man.
Rap Nation.
My bad. It's like Chick-fil-A. My bad. No, it's Rap Nation. Yeah.
Rap Nation is the name of it.
Yeah, Rap Nation shirt's coming soon. Janice is playing music, and the Russians come in, they pull up on her, and they clock her. I mean, they clock her rash. And immediately they go to the locker, and she gets the leg. Like,
it's a fat meat greasy moment.
You say it's a what?
You don't believe, like my grandmama used to tell me, it's an old saying, you don't believe fat meat greasy until you
fat meat greasy.
You don't believe that fat meat is greasy.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
That means you're gonna fuck around and find out.
Fuck around and find out. Yeah.
You're gonna fuck around and find out. You keep playing. That's an old saying. So yeah, Tony tried to tell her, man, do not play with these people. Like, this girl is connected. Like, do not fuck around. And Janice didn't want to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. We get this dream sequence. It's shot really well. I do like how it's shot.
They were my fault. They were very, I just want to shout out, they were very fair. Like, they really look, give us the leg. We not even here on no bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm sure they knew this is Tony Soprano's sister.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm not trying to, I think Svetlana was aware enough to say this is who we dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Don't do nothing crazy. We don't want the wrath.
Yeah, but the fact that they tried to tell her it didn't have to go this way, but you only get warned once. You know, so obviously you don't like to see assault or anything like that. But like, you got her. You a human. You a terrible human being. You took her. You took her.
They was the bad guys though. That shit was funny. She said, "You guys are callous." He was like, "Bitch, you took somebody."
Yeah, right. Well, but it kind of lines up because you think about how she's looking at it. You know what I mean? It's like, well, these are records that from my mom that should be to me in her head. So she's looking at like, no, this is due for me. So I'm taking, in her head, this is how it looks. It's like, no,
in Janice's world,
you did wrong first. You should have gave these to me clearly, like, but
take something else. You taking that's her line. Like that's the way she gets around and operates on a day to day. You took her leg,
man.
Yeah, you asking for something back that someone else gave you, and the person said no, which I can see that be
you
frustrated. But you straight up stole this woman's leg, like
you can't let that slide. That ain't like you. I forgot, I forgot my headphones on the plane. Like, oh fuck it. Like, nah, you can't let that slide. You got to get that shit back.
That's true. I feel like we can make an ad here, which I think. Sopranos storage. Anytime you want to hide limbs, prosthetic limbs of any sort, Sopranos storage is always available. You can pay $19.99 a month, but make sure, as Spike said on the other ad, either you pay or you will pay. So make sure you never late on your storage price for Sopranos storage units. Shouts out to Janice being our first customer. I don't know, that was a freestyle right there, but we get
I ain't mad at it.
We get it. I like how this is shot, like I was saying before. Melfi in a dream sequence, and it's just a metaphor for Tony being the dog that she could sick on Rossi, who abused her. I wasn't mad at this dream sequence. I like how it was shot. I'm here again with Spike, where it's like we don't really need this that much, but it's a part of the Soprano lure that says it's not just a therapy show, it's not just a mob show, it's also this. So do y'all want to add anything to that dream sequence of her grabbing for soda and dog barking?
We might not need the dream sequence in the way it's shot, but I do think we need something to make us realize that Dr. Melfi is seriously considering, at least thought about telling Tony who this person was, where he worked, so they can take care of it. Because she said to Elliot, this is the first time I felt safe since it happened.
Mm-hmm.
This dream happened. She's connecting the dots as far as what it means, but she knows like Tony can handle this for me if I need to.
Mm-hmm.
And she's talking about the satisfaction she gets from seeing this guy get attacked to shreds and everything else. Like she wants to see it happen. It's that human moment. Are you going to get, because nobody would blame her for going to Tony and saying this. Nobody, not one person. Right? But it's a moral decision. Do I want to do that? And I know I'm going to cross a line if that happens. So just that whole idea, we had to understand what her thought of her mindset was.
Yeah, it would have blurred the lines too much for her, and of course, the satisfaction could have been there, but knowing that like I stand on this side versus everything that Richard has been saying and everything that they represent, and so I get it. If this is the way to just kind of bring us into her thought pattern, it's cool. It works. I don't know what the soda is supposed to be for though. Like, I don't know. I feel like the reliving the moment or kind of almost happening and then like having somebody do something crazy kind of, but that wouldn't have been high our key of what makes the show so great. But yeah, she tells Elliot, he's concerned like, hey, civilization, this and this. I don't worry about it. But just know that there's a satisfaction in knowing that if I want to, a phone call away, I can have him ripped to shreds. And I remember first time watching this, I wanted that so bad. But I completely understand us being adults and grown and professionals. I completely understand what that means if she would have did that. But when I first watched it, I was like, tell him. Like, I was so bad, dude. But yeah.
First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth time I watched it. I always wanted to tell them. But in the grand scheme of things, it just can't work for the story they want to tell. But yeah, we all want that. We love to get a scene of Tony getting them back.
Yeah, it's been cool. Go ahead.
Melfi has some great lines behind it with Ellie when she's like, "Don't worry, I'm not going to break the social construct of things." And a much lazier show, I think she would have told him. But being that this is the Sopranos, and what I spoke about earlier, with there are only a couple of characters in this world that are pure, and I think that Dr. Melfi they did a great job in writing her to knowing that she played with the idea, but not crossing over the threshold to make her just like any other character in this show. I think that was a brilliant job.
Janice is in the hospital. Tony visits her. Janice is clearly high. She's talking about Richie like she wasn't the one who did it, like how he died and he passed, and talking this way. And And she says she's turning over a new leaf, but Tony tells her that you've done that before. He goes down a list of times of her having these different conversions of different belief systems. And this time she's saying, "Oh, I'm serious, Tony," and people do this often. But it's interesting because
she said, "When did I get like this?"
Like, when did I get
was
like
it
this?
When Richie died? Tony face was like, "Bitch, you."
Bro, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things I can say right now that I'm not going to say.
Oh shit, man.
But it's funny though. This is a very important thing because there's a tie-in to season 6. This is how she feels coming out of the hospital. In season 6, there's Tony coming out of the hospital, and there's a similar sentiment. So you kind of forget it's like it's a new day. For now on, every day's a gift. That concept is kind of similar here. So we get that kind of later. So it makes more sense if you remember this later down the road. You'd be like, oh, now I see why she kind of has this reaction. But yeah, that's pretty much it on that scene for me. It wasn't a whole lot. Just Tony, like, man, come on, man, let's get off of it.
I said it earlier. I know I made the reference last week, but Snowfall, the famous brick by brick scene. I said Janice is the Leon to Tony's Franklin. He said it in this scene. Tony said, "What do you mean what? Like every time I hear your voice on that phone, it costs me." That's very similar to what Franklin told Leon. Every time you fight with him, I lose.
Yep.
And Tony came to the realization, he said it too, like, even though I told you over and over and over again not to mess with the Russians, even though I told you over and over again this is petty, now it's even a bigger problem because they actually did slap you up like I knew they was going to do. And now I can't, me being Tony Soprano in the position I hold, I can't just let that shit slide.
Yeah.
Not only that, I have to go back and avenge your name because they just slapped up on my big sister. Yeah. Like all of this is an unnecessary headache. Like, so it just shows how if this was a Richard would have been like, well, shit, I told you, fuck it, it's on. Like Tony can't, he literally cannot let it go. He can't.
Great.
It's detrimental to what he does for a living. And he's so pissed at Janice, like every single time, Janice, like, you don't understand it. You don't see it. Like, you are costing me. You got to relax.
That's crazy, bro. It does.
You know what I mean? So I always think about those two things together because I feel them. Like, you think I'm playing. Like, no, I'm not. Like, stop this shit.
Right. We get the guys. They're at Johnny Sack's house, and he's having a housewarming. And, I mean, it's this yard, this whole layout is just fire.
How much you think he pays for this?
Yeah, and I've heard
alone.
Yeah, I heard that's like a real Italian thing.
$150K.
Man, like he is a serious player in this mafia world, bro. Like serious. And Ralphie goes over there talking to him. I mean, Ralph, like, you're so smart. He might have not even been talking about nothing over there, but like just the look of it, the optics of just, oh, okay, we're not gonna make me captain. Okay, I'm just gonna talk to Johnny Sack. You may think I'm code switching, but I'm probably not even talking about nothing that deep. But I'm making it look that way. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I just thought it was a real interesting thing, or whatnot. But I mean, we'll find out later that like there is some ambitions for Ralphie to take other routes. Anything else y'all gather from that barbecue scene or whatever?
The threat of that relationship to Tony is real in the sense of how it would work. It's, instead of him taking plays to Tony, he would take them to Johnny. And he starts to gain more of a rapport with New York, starts to probably make more money with them. So if there's ever a thing that like, I want to take Tony out, he would have their support. So I think that little look, that little back and forth, like you said a great point. They may not be talking about anything, but the optics are, you got one of my biggest earners out here in the backyard, you in my like landscape now, like something's up. And I think they did a good job of just forecasting it.
I also just find it hilarious every time I see Chris and Adriana making out like high school kids.
Oh yeah, they was into it. I was like, boy, what an acting gig, huh?
Like, get a room.
This is a slight spoiler, but this is the same house that Bobby tried to buy, right?
Is it? That
yes.
I remember that.
Yeah, this is it.
House, right?
Yeah. And I mean,
but it ain't Chris. It wasn't Chris' house either, though. You remember when Chris was? Well, never mind.
Chris' house was up there too, though. When we talk about nice homes, his was up there too. But this is by far, this is the pinnacle of homes in Jersey right now in the mod world. But Tony and Melfi have their last session, and Tony's just saying that I he's going in. He finally took notes about things, and and she just has a trigger, and everything just finally comes out. The reaction of everything finally hits Melfi. And even we talked about the satisfaction of having Tony sick him as a dog would, and even that reference to Tony being a dog when he was banging that woman at his at his job with the barking and stuff. Melfi established his position again. If even though I won't have you sick him, I won't even let you be exposed to be into my world of what I got going on, because I still in that way don't want to break the social construct. So I think it was interesting, and of course Melfi just lets it ride, and they zoom in and she never says, and they leave it there. Anything else y'all get from that last scene?
It's the thing that he was telling your man with the gambling shit. Was the man that lost his store.
Oh, Davey.
Davey. There's a line that's crossed once you start doing business with Tony. Mm-hmm. And as much as Tony fucks with Melfi, and that's his therapist, he's helped him one night, this would be a business transaction. Mm-hmm. Her asking him to do something at some point in time, he would have came back and she would have had to pay that debt.
Yeah.
Whether it been sexually or something of that nature, but he definitely would have been expecting some type of retribution for him doing it. And I think she knows that too.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely, man. You gotta that she needs Tony. Like, she needs that protection at this moment, because he's actually doing everything she asked him to do earlier this episode. He took his notes. Yep. He's opening up to behavioral therapy. Mm-hmm. Now she's like, no, please don't go. Like, I need you. And he doesn't know why, but like you said earlier, Mo, we all want her to tell him. And to Spike's point, man, a lesser show would have got us that moment. They would have given us that revenge moment.
That's big facts.
That ain't what The Sopranos is about.
Before we get out of here, we have to do a ranking system, just about how we felt about the episode and some of the moments here. So before we get out of here, Spike Lou, how do you rank this episode?
This is a made episode. 100% made episode.
That's crazy. Why is it made?
Whoa.
Yeah, I was.
That's crazy.
Right over Rich. I wouldn't even go. I was gonna let him.
I'm still not over Proscia Lavusha. I can't believe I'm still not over it. I'm sorry. I haven't got past the fact that you said that was just another envelope.
Yeah, it's just another envelope. This is a made episode. This is a made episode in the sense of the breadcrumbs that were laid out. The Jenny Sack situation, the Johnny Sack situation, the shit with Ralphie, the shit with Jackie Jr. Like it shows the depth of this show. Again, we talked about it not being cheap, and given that moment with Dr. Melfi, like there was so much more to the episode than what we saw on the screen, especially for people who watched the series through. A lot of the seeds were planted in this episode that we got good fruit from throughout the series. Definitely a made episode.
All right. What about you, Rich?
Made. It's not even a tough decision. We just spent the past 2 hours explaining why it's a made episode. I mean, this just lays tremendous groundwork for what we're about to get into. I mean, because the ball really starts rolling. I mean, when you get to episode 5, like the ball really starts rolling on this season, starting here. So yeah, it's definitely a made episode.
For a long time, this was just another envelope, but this is a good earner. There was a lot of other things that I honestly just never thought that it was needed. This whole storyline with Melfi, I just never, not because I don't like it, I just never thought it was needed. It doesn't, to me, I mean, like, other than like, okay, maybe it builds thicker skin for Melfi, it doesn't necessarily change anything. And I just don't think that we necessarily needed it. But I mean, at the end of the day, it happened, and here we are.
I think it's, if I just to push back on it a little bit, I think what it changes for us again as fans, we don't know that Dr. Melfi is as good-hearted as she is. A lesser show or a lesser character would have taken that opportunity to get the revenge. I think what it does shows us and changes us is that she's not willing to break. Everybody damn near in this series is willing to break or bend their morals, especially for some shot at success or fame or to being close with Tony. She's not. It shows how much of a professional she was, and it doubles down on it.
Yeah, but I just don't know how much we care about that. If she's a professional, like
well, that goes to the point of her helping him though. Like it goes to the point of the reason she's not sticking around for a sense of she wants to save the day. She's passionate about her job. And even her telling him to do this would have taken away from the therapy session and the help that she's trying to give him. I think it shows that she's genuinely in this to help him be better. Like it ain't for her like it is for her colleagues, where he's this mob star and you should be scared or you should be glamorizing it or whatever it may be. For her, it's about the work through and through.
But we never, but we just,
for her, it's about the work.
But we never needed it. We never believed otherwise. Like we didn't need to double down on it.
No, though.
Yeah, we did.
Are you looking at it?
Like we
are you looking at it from the sense? Do you think it was just too extreme? Like it was too extreme of a measure? Like we could have gotten the same sentiment with a less extreme measure? Is that probably what your issue is?
That's part of it. That's a part of it. That is a part of it. I get the extreme of her moral compass and her professionalism of not bringing this to Tony. I get all of that. That's good, but again, there was nothing that we believed. We didn't believe Melfi had ulterior motives or if she was in a situation. Nothing about her to me, even this first time watching it, because when she didn't cross over to say, I want to be with you, Tony, or like any of that stuff, and she kept setting grounds, no gifts, don't bring no coffee, don't do this, nothing about her told me that, if this happens, she may. So it's just not needed to me, bro. I get
this is one of those, I'm sorry not to cut you off. This is one of those things, as I said earlier about Richard. No matter who you are, somebody you care about, a woman you care about that's very close and very important to you in your life, they tell you something like that, and you're in the position. It's not like Tony's a civilian. He's in the position of power to take care of this mess with no problem. Like no issues, no repercussions. He can get away with it and come back into therapy, not mention it, and keep going like everything cool. She consciously can't go with that. She can't know she was a part of that. But to I think the show had to show something that extreme because nobody, like I said, nobody would have blamed Dr. Melfi for taking that offer. Nobody would have. So if you're not willing to go, if you aren't willing to speak up for yourself, for lack of better terms, and have Tony defend your honor in a situation like this, then I know for sure you locked in to the betterment of Tony as a person. And even though y'all got some little weird,
connection,
at least we know everything you're doing is pure and is genuine, and you're on a very rare air of characters.
Yeah.
But I do get it's rough. It's tough, man. I don't blame anybody for not liking this episode or not liking to watch it. Just
it's not a bad episode at all. Yeah, it's not bad. It's
definitely made though.
It adds to her character, it makes her greater, but I don't care. Kind of like it's like I look at you, huh?
Even without the Melfi stuff, it's a made episode.
Nah. You need that without it would probably be just another envelope for me. So, but before we get out of Spike, who gets the Good Earner Award? This may be Trips. Who knows?
Johnny Sack.
Oh,
Johnny Sack was he was my guy this episode, man. His presence alone. I ain't got to ask you to move to Jersey. Like, nigga, stop laughing when I walk in the room. I'm a real OG. Like, all laughing. Of that shit. Yeah, like, nigga, cut that shit out. Nigga.
Funny how.
Y'all bums sit over here and read. Y'all bums sit over here and read nudie magazines and watch porn all day. Like, like he went in. Right. I fucked with Johnny Sack. Whole swag this episode.
What say you, Rich?
Once again, Johnny Sack, man.
That's Johnny Sack. Got that sack.
We doing it again. He was a clear-cut winner for me. Everything Spike just said.
Yeah. Dr. Melfi. I mean, to bounce back like that and go back to your profession, deal with that trauma in that hallway. And again, even though, like I said, I felt what I felt, nonetheless, she still bounced back and was able to stand her ground in a tough, traumatic situation. I got to give it to her. Like, that is a very hard thing to go back. Some people never come back to a profession after that. So definitely Dr. Melfi. Who gets the Broken Balls Award for you, Spike?
Jenny Sack. Jenny Sack, man. Just catching all kind of strays for no reason. She might have a thyroid problem, anything, man. Don't nobody know what's going on with that lady. And they just let her have it, bro.
That's funny. What about you, Rich?
Man. I got Janice. Janice gets the broken balls for this episode, man. She didn't catch one win. She was going through it. She still ain't found that treasure in the basement. She had to get that leg back up. She didn't get the records back. She got beat up, and she's questioning life and what her purpose is, man. If you in an episode and you questioning what your purpose is, you know you had a rough time for the last 50 minutes. So got to give it to Janice.
I'm gonna go Tony on here because of Janice, because of the Carmela situation, because of the Johnny Sack situation, like he got really, like, everything cost him this episode a lot, and it just was tremendous. Like, I think everything cost him so much, and he just got a little bro when Johnny Sack came into town. This town ain't big enough for the two of us. And
I'm not mad at that. I like that. Actually.
You know what I mean? Like, he ain't gonna get to me though, but definitely this episode, I think Johnny Sack and the Big Dog House is better. You know what I'm saying? Like, my yard is like, yeah. Lastly, Spike, what was your favorite moment of the episode?
Tony telling Ralphie that he passed him for captain. Like Rich said in that scene, man, Tony was full on mob boss. I got the pinky ring, I got the cigar. I'm cutting you off in your bullshit stories, letting you know, like, hey man, we passed you off. I don't even want to hear this shit. I think that was a great scene.
Okay.
I had that too, just because of it's always tough giving bad news. Tony just went right into it. I got some news you're going to like. Same way he told Jackie, I'm going to say some things. I'm going to say some bad words. You're going to have to sit here and take it. But since Spike went with that, I'm going to go with the other one I had, which is the Bada Bing. Them just roasting Jenny Sacks. That's hilarious. That's tied with just a singular line of Ralphie telling Johnny, don't get fucking filthy about it.
Yeah.
Because Jackie really looked at him like dating. Like, come on.
Yeah, bro. Like, you reaching. Like
I'm 22 years old. You talking about dating.
Don't play me, bro. And I would just go with Tony backtracking after Melfi canceling the session on a phone call with Carmella, just like how he's like, man, her knee, man, that's crazy. People like, he's just like, you know what? Because he started to see her face, like, it's funny to the mug, bro. Like, that is by far so hilarious, bro. But yeah, that is our episode. Another episode of Good Earners reviewing Sopranos season 3, episode 4, Employee of the Month. If y'all want to find us, as far as this show goes, goodearnerpod_Sopranos on Instagram. Y'all can also email us, goodearnerpod@gmail.com. We can be reached, man. Rate, subscribe, leave some reviews on iTunes, man. It's great to listen, but it's even better to show open support. So we would appreciate that. Before we get out of here, Spike, where can they support you? And then Rich, you can tell them where they can support you.
Just go check out the OnDeckTv show. Check out Danny in Sports. Check out Another Week in the Books. Dropping through y'all week in your favorite podcast feeds.
Okay.
The Culture Garden Podcast is a film review page. If you go to our Instagram at the Culture Garden Podcast, you'll see our link tree in the description. Has access to our YouTube page, as well as a television podcast I'm a part of called We Got Y'all. We're about to do the season finale of Winning Time, Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. That's going to release on Monday. Yeah, man, that's pretty much it right now. And obviously here.
Yeah. And y'all can go check out my fictional podcast. It's Roll, the audio drama series. 3 seasons straight, 4th season coming soon. But in the meantime, go run those up. You will thoroughly enjoy a coming-of-age story of a black man, boys to men, so to speak. This is another episode. And remember, don't forget about it.